Hello and welcome to the Series B podcast. I'm your host, Greg Pokricki. Your guest today is Steve Rossi, founder and CEO of Worksport, a solar tonneau cover manufacturer that relocated to Buffalo in 2022. In this episode, Steve builds the business case for Buffalo: energy, geography, and top talent. Enjoy. All right, Steve, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure to be here.
So, for the uninitiated, what is Worksport?
Worksport today is a manufacturer of automotive accessories. We started with our base product offering, which would be tonneau covers for pickup trucks. So anyone that would own an F-150, which is the most popular selling vehicle in America, or Chevy Silverado, et cetera, we manufacture the tonneau covers for the back of them, which is kind of a must-have accessory. Recently, we've also augmented and improved our product offering to offer the world's first solar folding truck bed cover, a complementary battery system. So that broadens our market to the consumer goods market. So it could be anybody that uses our battery generator. So think of a gas generator without gasoline. And we're also working on cool other little projects involving energy with a subsidiary that we have called Terravis Energy that's making a cold climate heat pump for climates like Buffalo and where we get a lot of snow and cold. So that's Worksport in a nutshell.
Awesome. So you're originally a Canadian company, publicly traded company. Obviously, we're talking today because you've moved your headquarters here to Buffalo and Western New York and seen a lot of success. But I'm curious if you could take us back first. Like, what was what were you considering the United States for? Like, what were the reasons that made you start to look south of the border?
It's a great question, and it's multifaceted to be able to answer that question. So I'll start with the business opportunities. We expanded into the United States in 2014, 2015, and we quickly learned that the United States market, of course, by numbers is 10 times larger than the Canadian market. But it's also a more attainable customer. In Canada, it's a much more spread out population in hubs like mostly Vancouver, for example, and Ontario and Edmonton. So 3 provinces over a massive landmass. And within those provinces of Canada, you have a very large waiver insert or diversity of customer. So we would find that there wasn't, a pickup truck market. There was just a smaller amount of pickup truck people spread over a huge landmass, which becomes logistically challenging, very difficult to market, very difficult to court customers, and just a clunky. So when we open up in the United States, we found that there was a much more even blend of the right consumers in almost every market that we needed. And it kind of worked to our benefit. So we have a much larger business market. And then we started thinking about where to manufacture the product. Traditionally, when I opened the business, historically, Worksport started as an importer from China, and I never liked that. I've been doing business. We've done business in China since I was in my early 20s. I'm now 40, and it was always difficult. Never really had a great. I can't tell you of amazing stories. Recently, we have some good suppliers that come from there, but that's it. So when looking at manufacturing, we thought, there's ways to be able to manufacture within North America as well. We looked at Ontario first, and again, Ontario had very high property taxes, very high real estate values, very difficult logistical challenges. To find an affordable manufacturing facility, for example, was 2 or 3 hours away from Toronto, which would be, another 2 or 3 hours away from the United States. So just difficult to navigate. So in essence, we have a bigger market, and being made in America was made easier with using intelligence, looking at ways of automation of some more key roles, and being able to bring a strong amount of workforce. But instead of having the workforce being hammer swingers, metaphorically, like those that are just, assembly workers or workers, now we have a much more strong number of workforce that are more like programmers, engineers, machine operators, these types of things. And we found that Buffalo specifically was a great place for that.
Yeah, so you detailed like the business case for, the US really thoroughly there. When you started looking at markets within the US to actually plant a flag and open uh,
Mhm.
a location and, specifically manufacture out of, maybe what were like 2 to 3 things specifically that stood out about, Buffalo? Because obviously, like, you could have gone a ton of places in the United States, right?
Mhm.
Like, why did
Mhm.
Buffalo stand out within that American market?
We looked at a lot of markets. We looked at a lot of Midwestern states, a lot of Southern states, Florida, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and that's just to name a few. And all of those states are fantastic. There's not one bad state in America to manufacture, in my actual opinion. I mean, we've seen successful automotive manufacturing in South Florida, a block away from the beach. So I think that the United States is set up for it, but Buffalo in and itself is just fantastic because the saying is all roads lead to Rome, and when almost physically every road leads to Buffalo, and we have, what is it? I think $100 billion of cargo that passes just amongst 5 border crossings, land crossings, just in the region. You have this great ability to be able to bring product from Canada. You have great ability. You have great port access for steamships. If you're importing product from abroad, be it Middle East, Europe, wherever. If you're shipping to Latin America, or if you're shipping to Australia or foreign markets as well. So all roads lead to Buffalo. Buffalo is one of, I think, the second biggest hydroelectric power producer in North America. Yeah, our factory, when we found this factory, we almost thought it was funny when we were looking at facilities in Toronto. There were old buildings, 60, 80, 100 years old, boiler, heating systems, cement block. And when we found this building in Buffalo, on the real estate listing, we thought it was, when you go to the store and you buy a wallet and it's got that fake family and the dog. We thought the picture of the factory was that, like some AI, like perfect, like rolling
Yeah.
grassy hills and blowing beautiful trees and all these. It was just this picturesque scene. We thought it was a fill-in picture, like an AI picture or something, but that was the building. We go to this region that, yeah, traditionally was very, very strong in the early 1900s for wartime manufacturing, grain and metal. But we found this building that's 20 years old. It had 1.3 million volts of electricity in a power station that we own in the back of the property. It had automatic storage and retrieval systems for robotic cargo, like instead of having forklifts and racks. It was just the perfect facility. So you have all the power you need. Okay, so that's number one. Do you have energy to manufacture? So if you're in light manufacturing and textiles, that's fantastic. If that's where your business starts. But Greg, you start a company that makes t-shirts, and one day you start laser cutting your own, shirt outlines, and you need more power. So having the energy and the infrastructure available is critical. So when we had way more power than we needed, I mean, that was number one. Number two is, geographically speaking, you're 20 minutes to Canada. And then I think it was a 10-hour drive to 70%, the majority of the US population. And you're in all of the highways, all of the interstates. You can get to anywhere, whether it's the city, New York City, or if you want to get south or anywhere. So geographically, also what's critical is we get to use the Canadian rail system to bring cargo from the West Coast across Canada to Toronto, and then a 1 hour truck to Buffalo, as opposed to maybe a less advanced rail system, or less connected rail system in the United States. So anyway, transportation was fantastic. Power was fantastic. And then we have, as I've said many times before, and I'll tattoo it on myself if I have to, we have in certain areas, you have a very strong workforce. And in certain areas like Silicon Valley, you have very strong brain force. And then when we were in Buffalo, we would come across these individuals that were able to design something like, hey, we need to bring in some very custom equipment and we need engineer drawings to be able to mount it. And you'd find this individual that would do all the engineering work. And then, they'd go to the back of their pickup truck, they'd come with an axe and a shovel, and they're like, I'm digging the hole myself. And then I didn't coin this phrase, of course, but I've assessed it myself that Buffalo has got this beautiful intersection of individuals that are brain and brawn, this mix of individual that's willing to think and willing to do. And to find that in my 22 years in business now, it's what we call universal soldiers. To find an individual that's like, I'm willing to think about the problem, to solve the problem, and then to physically enact the solution myself is really like you're finding three people in one. So my top three loves of Buffalo are the ability for affordable power, the connectivity to easy transport both by truck, by land and rail and vessel, and then the fantastic workforce that mixes brain and brawn on a very frequent basis. So we've had great success there.
When I've seen you market the solar tonneau cover, I think it was like a Fox Business segment, to like tailgaters. So I thought that was going to be one of the reasons because we're the tailgate capital of the world.
Well, in Buffalo, I mean, there's no joke. I mean, in Ontario, there's the hierarchy is like God, family. They're all top like these types of things. In Buffalo, it's Buffalo Bills and football, and then everything else is below it. And I say that tongue in cheek because, of course, family and all these things are top of mind. But you have to be a Buffalo Bills fan, and today you have to be a Sabres fan as well. But tailgating is huge. My first football game I've ever been to in my life was a home opener, Buffalo Bills tailgate. And I was in shock for days after because I'd never experienced this hordes of people just loving and celebrating one thing. So indeed, yeah, tailgating and football is a big part of Buffalo and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. So you touched on power quite a bit in your answer there, and it's something I just want to drill down a little bit on because not only do you have an abundance of power, but I know you're tapping into like hydroelectric power from the NIPA power plant, and
Mhm.
I think upstate New York. I think the stat is we have the cleanest electric power grid in the entire country,
Mhm.
thanks
Mhm.
in large part to that. For you as like a somewhat of a high power user, but also really like a clean tech, clean manufacturing company, like what role does that play both in your bottom line, but also just like the ethos of the company of being able to tap into that?
So yeah, there's a bit of a pain point. The United States has been one of the slowest adopters of nuclear reactor energy, which would otherwise be deemed relatively clean energy, although of course high risk.
Yeah.
So the demand for energy in the United States has been such that most of the energy, I'm speculating, I'm not an expert here, but from what I understand, from what I read, and you can't trust everything you read, that the United States is growing its energy output by installing natural gas, oil, and coal type power generators because they're small, they're cheap, they're fast, and there's a significant amount of natural gas, at least available, an abundance of it. And we don't really like that. I mean, we don't want to replace the emissions from the tailpipe of your car with the emissions. Like we think we've done our job when we hop in a Tesla or some sort of an EV, or install solar on our roof. But then on the other side of, your connectivities on something else, there's now a new, CO2, emissions, power plant. We don't like that. Being part of the hydroelectric, we know that we have stable power, and that we know that our power prices very likely won't change or be so volatile with the price of natural gas or the price of oil, the price of coal, and these types of commodities. So we have stability. The power stays on, even in days of, I mean, Greg, the 10 to 12 feet of snow. I mean, the power doesn't go anywhere. So you have a very stable power grid. You have a very stable cost of energy. And then we know that on the other side of that energy is a limitless supply of clean source. So all of them aggregate into this beautiful solution for us that we have lots of power and it's stable. Also notable, although I don't handle the particular negotiations with the utility, I know that our cost for power is enviably low. And it's not because we're Worksport. It's just because we're open for business in New York State. It's like we just got that. And again, I don't know the exact cost per kilowatt, but I know that there's all kinds of incentives to use hydroelectric power. And our cost in itself and that was a big deterrent in Ontario, which is also hydroelectric and nuclear power. cost of energy multiplicatively higher than the cost of energy in New York State, at least in Buffalo.
Yeah. So you came to Buffalo. I think you guys officially expanded in, was it 22?
Mhm.
And then you came back, I think it was like a year or two later, and announced an expansion on top of that,
Mhm.
with new job creation and expanding within the building.
Mhm.
Seems like you kind of realized you had made a good bet on Buffalo pretty quickly, right?
Mhm.
Like, and realized some of the returns on that investment almost immediately.
Mhm.
Talk to me about like what surprised you about Buffalo that made you feel, obviously made a big commitment by moving here, but to double down like almost instantly and reinvest in a pretty big way a year or two later. How did you feel that kind of success so immediately?
Mm, I mean, the first off, hats off to our engineering team and those internal to Worksport, because the product we make has been very well received in the market. So that has nothing to do with Buffalo. It's just we're making a good product that people want. And I think that if you were to make a bad product on the moon, or if you were to make something that people don't want anywhere, it wouldn't make a difference of whatever support. Your cost of power could be very cheap. It won't make a big difference unless it's
Yeah.
maybe job shop type manufacturing, like where you're making, mass manufactured plastic bottles, for example, where that cent a kilowatt hour is your margin. That's fine. And that gives you the competitive advantage. For us, we just make a really good product. We were just voted one of the finalists for the best places to work in New York through the Buffalo Business First. So, and in order to be the best employer, it's so they say relationships are 50-50, right? You're married and your partners, they put in 50, we put in 50. That's wrong. It's a recipe for failure. Real life and success is 100-100. Okay. I'm going to give you 100% and I expect 100% in return. And boy, do the people that we hire that are happy, clearly voted us one of the best places to work in the region. We give them 100%. We listen to them. We're there for them. We give them a great environment to work in, 401ks, benefits, all of these different things. But boy, do they put in 100%. They show up. I mean, again, in our region in West Seneca, 10 feet of snow is not impossible in 24 hours. And they're there shoveling hands at 6 in the morning, digging holes into pathways into doorways to get to work. So that really, when you give 100 and you get 100, the only thing that can happen is good. You're making the best product. You have the best customer that gets an amazing product in the box, and that quality shows. You can almost open something up and feel whether there was pride in what it is that's in that package. And Worksport, corollary to that, all of our product is assembled in West Seneca and Buffalo, New York. But we also use 93% domestically sourced material. So we're completely American sourced. Like the resin for our paint comes from the 48 states, the aluminum ore, all of these things is all made in America. So when it's made in America, assembled in America with the happiest people in the best business, the aggregation of all of these great things, 100 results in, again, 100% of our efforts going to that product. And then that customer feeling that and then realizing it and giving it a 5-star review, referring it to a friend, and then it just begets more business. So we were able to double down because we gave it 100, we got 100 in return, and it's just been multiple. It's been beneficial to the business and the ability for us to grow and the demand for our product. So we have 15 acres of land. We could build on another 5 acres of land, and we called the regulators in West Seneca. They came in, they visited, and they said, "Whatever you need, you got it." And it's just been so easy. So altogether, it's just been good gets good, and as a statement, and we're very proud of that.
What type of roles have you hired for, and how easy was it to find those folks? Seems like you're super happy with the quality of individuals you found, obviously, and that mix of brain and brawn, but I'm
Mhm.
interested in how easy that was to build for you.
Um, you know, in real life, I think that anyone starting out, when I say to people that I have hair on my head older than them, that it takes, there's a little bit of wisdom that, we know. So in Buffalo or not, it makes no difference. There's still the chance that, I guess the saying is, you got to kiss some frogs to get to the prince or princess. And, for us, we're very particular with who we hire. However, we've had some of the best candidates come. for plant management, general management, operations management, machine operators. I mean, we have one of like two that exist in the Northeast of panel bending machines. It's a 150-foot long machine that takes a roll of metal and turns it into a finished product completely robotically. And to have that an operator run that machine, it's not a press brake, it's not a drill press, it's a completely automated robotic line, the likes of which doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And we're able to find machine operators easily that were just so hungry to learn and improve and almost outsmart the machine, so we got really efficient with it. So we were able to hire machine operators, plant management, logistical operators, engineers, UB. I mean, UB is putting out world class candidates. Our lawyer in New York City, one of the fastest growing Wall Street hotshot lawyers in the world right now, is a UB grad. And I mean, he's the biggest lawyer in New York City now. UB, proud, tried, tested, and true. So, pulling in from that university has been fantastic. So, I guess that answers the question. Just in general, we found all kinds. Labor, yes, easy to find. But yeah, you want that brain, you're going to get brawn with it, but it's not hard to find either.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you feel lucky to have found Buffalo, and we're certainly lucky that you chose to expand your business here and continue to grow it. So Buffalo's lucky to have Worksport. Really appreciate your time joining us today on the podcast. Before I let you go, we're ending on a segment that we call Last Call, which is a couple hard-hitting, quick questions to get you out of here. So first, what is your favorite productivity tool right now?
Favorite productivity tool? Favorite productivity tool? That's a good question. You know, it sounds analog, and I am more analog than digital. So I personally don't use very much in terms of the way of AI and these types of things. My favorite productivity tool is quiet time, pen and pad, and removing the noise and focusing on the signal. So that's I think a quiet, reflective time to be able to sit and accomplish. Getting something from 90% to 100% takes 90% of the effort, if that makes sense. And I think that is brain, hand, pen, and paper to just kind of map things out and really connect with your own thought process. And then, yeah, of course, there's actual tools if you're looking for. I know our company's adopted Microsoft Copilot and the AI side, and Claude by Anthropic for like assistant type things, research. But outside of that, we try to use people's brain as much as possible.
Awesome. You're on a podcast right now. When you listen to podcasts yourself, what speed are you listening to them at?
I listen very intently, especially to some individuals are very intelligent individuals, and they say a lot of heavy things, and so I'll listen at one speed. If it's like an audiobook, it's 1.5. Sometimes I'll fast forward ish at 2, but 1.5 on audiobooks and podcasts. I'm usually at 1 because you're listening to every word intently.
What's your go-to coffee order?
Black. That's it.
How about a book or TV show that you'd recommend?
Oh, TV show, me and my wife just watched, what's it called? Shrinking, if you've heard about it, which I thought was really cool.
It's a great one.
And then, yeah, that was interesting. We watched all of it. And my beloved mother just bought me this book, so I'm going to read it. If she recommends it, I love her dearly. So I'm going to definitely read it. But The Prince, by Niccolo Machiavelli. And, she says that I like it. So hopefully she's right. And I think she is.
Awesome. Good recommendation from mom. And then last question, you've been in Buffalo for what, 4 years now?
Mhm.
How about chicken wings, drumstick or flat?
Flats preferred, and it's got to be barbells.
Okay. Great
Yeah.
choice. Awesome. Well, thank you
Mhm.
very much for your time, man.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.